The Unrelating podcasts are meant to be for education and entertainment. They don't constitute a service or advice. For personal struggles, please reach out to a medical or mental health professional.
I was about to say good morning, Michelle, but it's actually afternoon. So good afternoon, Michelle. Usually we tape in the mornings. That's why I was like a little off here. This is a late.
Good evening and good night.
Yes, exactly. This is a little late for us. We normally we're morning people, I guess.
I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No.
Okay. Then I'll stop taping us in the mornings.
I think if we start recording at like 10 p.m. to midnight, that would be my sweet spot. I'd be like super on it.
Real? No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. That's another podcast episode right there. What time do you normally go to bed?
Midnight or 1. Yeah.
Well, what time do you get up?
Oh, I don't want to say.
I want to talk about your sleep hygiene. This is.
Well, I do have insomnia. So my whole life.
Okay.
But personally, I think that's just a label that is like inaccurate. I think my circadian rhythm just wants to be asleep from like 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. That would be where my body would feel happy. But that's not how life works. So
yeah,
we didn't even start and we're already off topic.
Speaking of topics, have you ever felt like, or do you know somebody who's ever felt like they've let down their parents to such a degree that they may or may not have a relationship with them anymore?
Oh, certainly. It feels pretty universal that, you know, if you grew up with caregivers, they're naturally going to have expectations of you. And so if you don't meet them, or if you feel like you're not meeting them, or if they don't align with who you feel you are, there's certainly conflict there.
On today's show, we're actually going to talk to somebody who, like you, is a therapist and wrote an article that is really, really, I think, an important exploration on their relationship or lack thereof with their parents and how they've able to manage that.
It makes us ask hard questions like when is enough when it comes to issues with family members?
Mm-hmm.
And when you do get to that point, what do you do? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, how do you take care of yourself during that time?
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome to Unrelating with Kelly and Michelle.
I've been a licensed marriage and family therapist for over 2 decades.
And I'm the show producer and co-host.
Together, we'll explore how we engage in relationships,
why we do what we do,
and what causes people to unrelate.
Well, joining us today is Sharon Kwan. Sharon was born in Seoul, South Korea, and raised in Los Angeles. Another fellow LAite. She is a psychotherapist, a writer, and founder of Body Aware Therapy. Welcome, Sharon, to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So a little backstory. We read an article that you wrote on Huffington Post. Really fascinating article. You were addressing another article that talked about life is too short to fight with your family. And it was really, it just touched on a lot of really, really important points. You argue there are many reasons why cutting contact with family might sometimes be the best thing you can do for yourself, especially in the case of like physical, sexual, or emotional and psychological abuse. Just because they're family, I'm quoting you here, doesn't mean it's okay for them to hurt you and that you have to continue tolerating it. Tell us about your backstory. Tell us about how the origination of this article.
This is a very personal piece that I wrote. I shared a lot about my experience with my family. So I'm Korean American. I was born in Korea, came to the U.S. when I was 3 years old with just my parents. And then my brother was born here. And so from day one, it felt our world was pretty small in terms of family connections. Everybody was back in Korea. My dad is one of 5. My mom is one of 6. So we left behind a really big village and community. And in America, the biggest population of Koreans outside of Korea is in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And according to the Pew Research, 59% of Korean Americans identify as Christian. And so there's a huge Korean Christian population here in Los Angeles. My dad is a pastor, and his life dream and goal was to go to America to seminary school and become a pastor and evangelize the Korean Americans, in America. And for a lot of Korean immigrants, the very first step they take when they come to America is they look for church, because that was like the original social work. That was the original place that you go to find community, to get resources, to get connected, and to really just get started. And so my parents, they're whole reason for being was just God and church. And their sole purpose has been to just evangelize. And so when I started distancing or just finding myself growing apart from their religion and just from Christianity, things just became really, really difficult. I started feeling a lot of guilt and a lot of shame for not being able to be the daughter that they wanted me to be. And especially when you add the filial piety piece, as a very Asian family, that just compounded everything. And I kind of grew up hiding a lot of myself. I didn't feel like I could be honest with them. I didn't feel like I could be truthful, that I didn't want to go to church anymore. And I was maybe 25 when I officially kind of came out to them that I don't go to church. I never thought that I could do that. I really thought that I was going to have to lie and pretend for the rest of my life. But I actually started seeing a therapist, and with her help, in our first session, she just kind of helped me see oh, maybe there is another way. Maybe I'm holding myself back. Maybe they can handle it. And so she kind of helped me be more honest with them. And, the reaction, it was mixed. My mom, she was definitely more patient. She said that she would love me anyway. My dad, he was not very happy. He tried to disown me. He was very upset. Over the years, I tried to continue to have a relationship. I think mostly for my mom. She was often in the middle of us, and that was also really hard for us as well. I hated putting her there, but they really came as a unit. Yeah, I struggled with that for a while, and it just got to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore. I think that there was just a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing, a lot of just me not being able to just be myself, me feeling like I can't, and at that point I was fully financially supporting myself. I was fully independent, but I still felt like I was being treated like a child, and, the church thing was just so big for them. It was, their world was very small, and mine was just so much bigger outside of it. And it felt very limiting, and it felt like I just couldn't be myself and couldn't live the life that I really wanted.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what kind of was my breaking point of okay, I really need some space, some time to just recreate, re-envision, what kind of life do I want? And because they were so much at the center of it. And it was really hard to center myself with them around.
Yeah. And so much of your identity tied up to those family obligations.
Yeah.
A lot of cultures, collective cultures, and especially cultures around religion that make it an absolute. This is not a choice you get to make. This is something you have to do as part of the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And seeing how much, because my mom, she was always the one, she was the breadwinner. She's a nurse. She's been working her entire life to keep us afloat, to support my dad's dream of, the church. And so I felt so much guilt. I felt both gratitude, which often turned into guilt. And that was such a hard thing to navigate. Because I wanted to be the daughter for her. I wanted to just be able to just go to church and do what she wanted me to do, but I just couldn't. And that really set up just so much shame in me. And it was really hard to be around her.
Was there anything about her reaction when you finally did talk to them that surprised you? Or did you think that's how it would go with the both of them?
I was really surprised that my mom, she was very empathetic. I really didn't think that was the reaction that I was going to get. I thought both of them were going to be you're not my daughter. She cried with me. Yeah, she said, I'll love you anyway. Yeah, she kind of, when I tell the story to people, I'm like, oh, she actually showed me what God's love is, that unconditional love. And so I will always, I'll always love her for that.
It makes me think too, and a lot of people have felt this way, where it's kind of a cognitive dissonance where the person who loves you is saying, I love you, but you just don't feel good enough anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes with conditions, or I'll love you, or I'll love you more if.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to be a certain way to really get that love, no matter what I'm hearing them say.
Yeah. Think about it's big picture, how the role religion plays in all of our lives. Growing up, I know I went to church, And it was a big part of our lives growing up. And now it's not. That's a decision that I've made consciously. Although I will say I do see the benefits of organized religion, and I guess we don't need to go down that road. But I think there are social benefits. Like I fully support my parents being religious, or my mom at least. I think it's important for her, especially from a social standpoint. But Michelle,
Kelly,
yeah.
Imagine being in a position where who you are, you feel is a disappointment to your parents.
Oh yeah, I can't. It's although this is I would imagine there's a world where my parents, unlike your parents, Sharon, want to have me be more part of the church, but that's just a decision we've made, right? That it's not going to be a big part of our lives.
Yeah, it's really hard when, your dad is a pastor. That's just
especially
everything he stands for. It's not just, it's so much a part of his identity and his purpose. And I also agree, I think church can be a really beautiful thing. It brings community. It brings people together. It creates a spiritual safe space for so many people to feel seen and to feel like part of something. But that doesn't mean that that's the same for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I can also try and put myself in your father's shoes and empathize with that as a parent, as like the fear that probably comes up. Like, oh no, if you don't have this piece in your life, what is that going to mean for you? What can your life look like if you don't have this piece? I find very important.
Yeah. And I think about that all the time. Like from his perspective, it's like, I don't want you to go to hell. Like I want you to go to heaven. I want you to be, have eternal happiness. And so it's so hard for me to hate that or like be against it. But I'm just like, but I'm happy now. Isn't that enough?
Yeah. So take us a little bit through how you can even get to that place. Because you talked to them. There was a time where you decided, you know what, I need space. But I know in your article, you talked about actually trying a lot of different things from, ayahuasca to different types of therapies to, is there anything in particular from that time when you were trying those supportive services that like stood out for you, that worked for you?
Yeah, definitely. I really feel like I've tried it all. I got to a point where I was just like, just give me anything, I will do it. Like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I think 2 or 3 things really stand out to me. One is working with a somatic therapist. As we know, trauma is stuck in your body. And I was still feeling all those flight, fight, freeze responses, feeling like needing to people please when I'm in around authority, even just like around friends, the avoidance that I felt around conflict.
Can you define somatic therapy just for our listeners?
Yeah, somatic. So somatic has to do with the body. And there's different kinds of somatic therapies. I guess the therapy that I am talking about is connecting your mind and your body, and also connecting with the emotions that you're feeling to your body. Like I'm feeling angry. Where is that? Where are you feeling that? It's in my chest. My chest is tightening. I feel really hot. Okay, what's happening now? What's happening to this tightness in your chest? Is there a color? Is there another sensation? Is it moving? Just really putting into words these bodily sensations that we often don't even realize are happening, because I think we're so cut off from it. I think so much we are just operating, we're very much in our heads, and we're not really realizing how this is impacting us somatically. I mean, this is why people have like IBS or, you get nauseous when you're anxious. Like it's all connected. We just don't realize it. And so somatic therapy helps bring that together. It's, you go from the bottom up, as they say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed working with my last therapist. She did a lot of somatic work with me. At one point, we were really dealing with the rage that I felt towards my parents. And she had me, and I didn't necessarily love this intervention. It actually made me a little uncomfortable, and we later processed that. But she literally had me like envision what it would be like to kill them, and like had me picture it, describe it, and like describe the sensations in my body. I don't think it's for everyone.
Yeah.
But
As a
Yeah.
therapist, I'm like, wow, that's
What,
some serious liability that therapist is taking
Yeah.
on. Wow.
what use would that be? I mean, why envision that?
To fully let yourself experience the rage instead of containing it, instead of suppressing it.
Okay.
If you don't fully metabolize it, if you don't fully like let your body experience it, it's just trapped in there. It's just stuck energy.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the somatic pieces, that stuck energy might become the IBS or muscle
Mhm.
tension or headaches or sweats or heart racing, all these
Mhm.
physiological responses.
Got it.
Now I'm getting trained in somatic experiencing and have identified some more healthy ways to experience that rage. Even just like grabbing a towel and like putting all of your energy in there and like giving the anger a direction outwards instead of just keeping it trapped in.
Mhm.
And even just like doing exercises where you push against the wall and like you have that feeling of like pushing something away. I found that these have been really helpful for me and for some of my clients that I've been working with.
Boxing, maybe hitting a boxing bag.
Yeah, yeah. Some people do that as well. I worry that gets like a little violent.
Yep.
But this is why I support your choice to take some space,
Mhm.
because that rage isn't just going to go away on its own. And if it's present in every interaction that you're having with your parents, that's not going to be a productive or fulfilling interaction.
No.
So,
Yeah. I felt so triggered around them. Like I felt so triggered around my dad, and it just, I was still just a small little kid that it felt like so angry. Like leave me alone. Like I can't. I don't want to be around you. And yeah, I did. I really needed space to be able to like to address that and move through that. And so that was really helpful. And then another therapy that I really loved was psychodrama. At this point, I was like, okay, I've really done it all. So what psychodrama is, and I've only done this with Linda Tai. She's like my mentor. She does psychodrama in a very somatic way. She has these psychodrama workshops where there's like 10 of us. What you're doing is you're basically reenacting your trauma, like
Mhm.
reenacting a specific story and creating a new narrative around it. My psychodrama ended with me in the arms of like a 6'5" like Alaskan man cradling me like a baby and like singing a lullaby to me and like giving me the experience of what the ideal father-daughter relationship could look like.
Wow.
And like obviously my left brain, my logical side knew that this isn't real.
Mhm.
But my body just needed to feel that, needed to
Yeah.
remember that.
Yep.
And that really stuck with me.
How did that feel?
It was very tender. I mean, at first I was laughing. I was like, this is weird. I don't really get it. Like
Yeah.
everybody's looking at me. Like I'm so embarrassed. But after the initial like wave of embarrassment and a little bit of shame, I just like released and I just started crying like a baby.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he just kept holding me.
Yeah.
I so wish that anyone out there who's, considering therapy or in therapy will take that leap, because there's often so many things that we work on in therapy that are awkward and uncomfortable. And, if you can get through that phase of like, oh God, roll your eyes, don't make me do this,
Mhm.
and get to the other side, there's so much healing that can happen.
Totally.
Who wouldn't love being cradled by a gigantic 6'5" man? I mean, that's such a I'm just kidding. No, but like it's such a interesting visual.
Just to be held like that.
Emotionally,
Yeah, right.
emotionally, but yes, physically, just like Sharon was saying,
Yeah.
that your body feeling that cradling and that
Mhm.
nurturing.
And connection and touch, and
Exactly.
Mhm.
I mean, I think back, my relationship with my dad, because it just comes to mind. But like, certainly, I wish we were closer, right? And I wish we had more of that kind of connection that sounds like you wish you had too with your dad. So it's something I still to this day, struggle with, right? Emotionally, and yeah, it's something I don't think we always feel like little kids to our parents.
Mhm.
We feel like little kids with our parents, and I'm sure they feel like we're little kids. We're stuck in time, maybe, and that's probably maybe one of the reasons why you struggled with your parents because you were in this capsule and they didn't want you to grow up.
And I'm sure they had a hard time picturing what your life could look like if you did walk away from the church. And now you have this life that I imagine they can look at and say, wow, okay.
She's okay.
She's still okay. Yeah. She's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And thriving. Hopefully they can see the thriving part.
I want to talk a little bit about like how you were able to actually set those clear boundaries, because that really had to be hard for you. I know you mentioned in the article, but just kind of break it down. How did you do that? How did you actually set those clear boundaries with your parents?
I think because our family is not very good at communicating, and a lot of things were just read between the lines. I mean, the way that we cope with things is just pretend it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. It was actually kind of easy. Like they didn't need a big like aha statement or like a definitive like I'm never talking to you ever again. It just kind of happened quietly. I didn't call anymore. I didn't answer. I do think that actually with my mom, I did have to say like, I can't talk to you anymore. Like I need space. It's too painful. Like if I need to talk to you, I will reach out. And she heard me and she respected that. With my dad, we haven't really had a very communicative relationship in like my adult years. And so like that was kind of, it was normal for me to not call him or for him to not call me. And so the silence just kind of happened naturally.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel like my family's communication style, it's not ideal. Like I wish that I had a family who actually talked about things and like listened to each other. We tried family therapy actually for during this no contact period. We did like 3 sessions. So I got to a point where I was like, okay, maybe with a family therapist we can talk this out and like work this out. It only lasted 3 sessions though. By the end, my dad got really upset and it just kind of stopped there. Wow. And that just kind of proved to me like, okay, this isn't going to work. He's not willing to go there, or I guess I'm not willing to just bend over backwards and just, be completely like submit again. And so that was kind of a turning point too, in terms of like grieving and acceptance of like, okay, this is really where they're at. Like there's no more. I need to accept that this isn't going to change. I need to accept that this is what it is. And so even when it came down to me wanting to establish contact again and renegotiate that relationship, like there was a part of me that was really resistant. I was like, do I need to do some kind of family therapy again? Do I need to have some kind of like conversation? Like, do I need like this acknowledgement of something? And so that I like put it off for a while because of that. And then I finally got to a point where I was like, I don't think that that's going to be possible. Like if it was, then we wouldn't be here. And so when I reestablished contact, like there was no aha moment. There was no like tearful reconciliation. It was just, okay, hey, how have you been doing? Or like, okay, I'm getting married. Are you going to come? Like it just, just kind of pretend like it never happened and move on and move forward.
Yeah, you mentioned in the article how you got married and they came as guests to your wedding. Maybe that was a good thing.
Yeah, my whole life, like since a young age, I dreaded getting married. I dreaded having a wedding because I always was like, oh, my dad's gonna ruin it. Like he's gonna hate who I marry because they're not gonna be Christian. He's gonna hate that there's drinking. He's gonna hate that there's no praying. Like he's gonna throw a fit. Like it's not gonna be the happiest day of my life. So I couldn't even imagine it. And so the fact that I had a wedding and like he was there and he walked me down the aisle and like he didn't like force everybody to pray, there was a little girl in me that was so shocked. Like she's still shocked. Like that really happened. I was like afraid of all of that for no reason.
Well, probably not no reason. It was highly likely that he would have done all those things. But for
if I didn't set those boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, although we could all argue, we're all afraid our parents are going to embarrass us at our weddings. I think that's how, and they usually do, usually in the speech.
I am curious, does he hate your husband?
No, he loves him.
Yeah, I know the answer is probably no, but
but what's the relationship like, actually? I'm curious.
yeah.
I wouldn't say that they're close. I mean, it's not like, me and my dad are close, but my dad really does. He loves him. He talks, he says great things about him. He loves to brag about him. He talks him up a lot. Yeah.
That's how you know he likes him. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would not do that otherwise.
Yeah. Even though he's not Christian, like, I don't know. I think he sees that there's other things that, make somebody a good person.
Well, I was just thinking because I think you mentioned this in the article, or I inferred this or interpreted it this way. But, all of this that you went through, taking space and working through things, sort of prepared you to be the version of yourself to accept the love of your husband. Or was that an easier process and I'm just overcomplicating it?
I think for me, like, because my parents' love was so unattainable and I was still like stuck in that cycle of wanting to get someone who doesn't see me to see me. That was happening in my relationships over and over and over again, going after emotionally unavailable people, like staying in those relationships for way too long, letting myself get distracted by the unattainable. I think once I finally accepted that this isn't the story that I want, like this isn't, like I don't need this anymore, it then really opened me up to the people who were actually ready and who did actually want the things that I wanted. And I think the timing of all of that just made it so that I could meet my partner when I did. Because I don't know, I feel like maybe if I hadn't done all this work, like I would have been distracted by somebody else who I was chasing around or who was trying to get to see me.
Was there any part of you while getting to know him that was worried of how he would judge your relationship with your family or your decision to take space from them?
Definitely. There's always a little bit of shame when it comes to the topic of estrangement and the judgment that you might feel like, oh, like, why couldn't you make this work? Like, are you being stubborn, or were they really that bad? Or, is she just avoidant? Like, is she just so difficult to get along with? So those are always like things that I kind of grappled with on my own. With him, I didn't feel it so much. Just knowing that, so I mean, his mother is a therapist, and his twin sister is also a therapist, and he's a psychiatrist. So it's like mental health central.
Oh, he's either very well adjusted or crazy.
I know. Our kids will be crazy.
You can be both, right? You can be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But you have now this support system, I think, that probably played a big part in being able to, obviously deal with this issue.
Yeah. I am so grateful for my chosen family. For the longest time, I felt so unlovable. Like, what is it about me that I'm never enough? Some of my best friends still today, I've known since as early as elementary school. And so just knowing that, I'm like, oh no, I definitely am lovable. They've loved me this whole time. Like, of course. They've been the family that I've, always needed back from so long ago. I've spent Christmases, holidays with them because my parents, they didn't really do holidays. It was very much just like church related. So I would spend it with my friends. They know me like inside and out. I've never had to hide myself. I've never had to pretend to be somebody else. They know me sometimes better than I know myself. And so I feel incredibly lucky to have that. And then also my family in Korea. So my mom, she is the black sheep in her family, but I am actually the perfect fit in her family.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was not shocked, but it was interesting that your family in Korea was so supportive during that time.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think it's because this thing happens when immigrants, when they come to a new country, they're like frozen in time. They are stuck. Like my parents, they came in the 90s. They are stuck in 90s Korea, while the rest of Koreans, like, they've gotten with the times, they've like adapted and developed culturally, and they're much more modernized. Like, my parents are
Hmm.
still like very 90s. And
Hmm.
so my family in Korea, they're just like, wow, people don't think like that anymore. People aren't like
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah.
And my mom's
That's a
family,
great point.
my mom's family, none of them are Christian. And so I kind of just fit right in with them. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had non-Christian family. This is great.
How often do you get back to Korea?
I try to go once a year.
This question, I know, Michelle, I can see your wheels turning, but this question is kind of both of you as therapists. But Sharon, you touched on something that I kind of touched me a little bit. But you talk about how you didn't feel that love from your parents, and it affected your self-esteem. And I think a lot of people can speak to that. I mean, certainly, if you're not getting that love from your parents, where do you get it from? Especially from a young age, it's basically resilience, right? And how do you then turn around and find or build yourself up if you're not getting that from the people who are the ones who are raising you?
First off, like, for me, I felt a lot of love in Korea the first 3 years of my life. I was in a village. I actually was primarily raised by my maternal grandmother and my aunts. Because my
Mm-hmm.
mom was working, my dad was in seminary school, so they would drop me off there all the time. I remember even still now how adored I was. And that love stayed with me my whole life. And they say the
Mm-hmm.
first 3 years in a child's life are the most important. That's when they develop their attachment, they develop their sense of self, and like the security. And so I really felt like I got that, and that stuck with me throughout my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why it was so easy for me to reconnect with them in Korea. It's like, oh, I've had this the whole time. Like, this is just like we're picking up right where we left off. And then my chosen family. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
have been the family that I needed, the people who have been, unconditionally there for me, supportive through it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've grown up together. They've so many, I feel like they are literally my sisters. And they've also been like my witnesses. They've heard me say this from day one, and they know that this has been such a painful struggle for me. And I don't even have to really say it anymore. They just know. And I think that them just holding space for that has been so helpful at my healing journey.
That's why chosen family is so important, because when you are asking yourself, am I lovable? You have proof.
Mm-hmm.
You can, try and absorb the evidence of that from your chosen family.
Yeah, finding your tribe, right? And I completely relate to that.
Well, I was just going to point out something else that I loved about Sharon's story, which is that you left the door open at some point to repair. And if you want to talk a little bit about that, the fact that even if you make the very difficult decision, sometimes not difficult decision, to, step away from a family that's not healthy for you, this idea of potentially coming back someday could be out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the beauty of family is, for better or for worse, they're family, they're forever.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to go away. Like, you can always come back. Cutting contact doesn't have to be forever. And cutting contact could look different. It could also be, a lot of people, I think people talk a lot about just no contact period, but there's also low contact, where it's like, you just speak on a need to know basis, logistics, holidays, life events, whatever. And I found that there's always room for rupture and repair if both parties are open to it. I think the time apart was really necessary for us. I think it also helped my parents see too that, we'd rather have just a small part in each other's lives than no part at all.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because family is so important in our culture and just our identity. And so to not be in contact, completely, it felt really sad. I always felt like, even in those 5 years that, like, I don't think that this can be forever. This is an important value of mine. Like, I really do value family. And I think that's why it's been so painful and why it's been such a journey. Because if I didn't, then I just wouldn't care. And I would just be like, whatever, what do you guys do whatever you want? I'll do whatever I want. But I really, really do care. And I really did want to find a way to like coexist in peace. Sometimes you just need to take some time apart, you know, and two kids are fighting. You just separate them and like let them have their alone time and let them calm down. And then once they're able to like speak clearly and, you know, reasonably, then they can, you know, come back together. And so I think that's what we did.
And to hold the idea that you have a right in your family to ask for changes or to try to make adjustments.
Yeah. We're not the same little kids anymore. You know, we're also adults too.
Exactly.
I've seen, you know, I'm thinking again, Sharon, about my dad, and it's like, I've seen his evolution from, you know, when I was younger and being kind of a little more of a hard ass to now as an 80-year-old, he's very emotional and he's very just kind of calm. And maybe it's an age thing, but I'm just wondering, thinking about that. And your father, do you see a world where he does evolve as he ages and he does maybe sees things from your perspective a bit better, perhaps?
Great question. I actually just talked about this recently with some friends who they felt similarly that their fathers have softened up and, you know, are a little bit more empathetic. And I joked, I was like, well, I'm still waiting for mine to change. I do see movement in that direction though. And I do feel like, because my dad, he's maybe like 66. Like he still hasn't hit 70 yet.
Oh.
So maybe like as he gets older, things will calm down a little bit more. And I also think, you know, if he becomes a grandparent, then that might also change things.
Well, this is like a little bit of my beef with religion, just a slice, is this idea of putting that organization or that the rules of that particular religion above just kind of the common sense of, wait a minute, we actually have a lot of shared values. And maybe mine aren't part of that religious organization and yours are. But when you look at all the overlap between what we believe in, what we value, what our priorities are, there's so much similarity. So sometimes religion will kind of cut someone off who's actually very much aligned with that religion, just not, you know, participating in that religion.
Yeah, I was just calling it different names.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like religion can divide more than it can
unite.
Thank you. We see that all the time, and it seems really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's been all throughout history. And
yep.
I told my parents, I feel like I am doing what Jesus would do through social work. Like Jesus was the ultimate social worker.
Yes.
And I like love this field so much for it. Like I totally embody those Christian values that you raised me with. And I will continue to live it through good works, through, you know, my daily life. Just because I don't go to church, you know, that doesn't make me a bad person, or like it doesn't, I don't know. I refuse to believe that is what is going to send me to hell.
If there is a hell, by the way.
Right.
But it does bring up this idea that some differences are irreconcilable in that way. So, you know, my in-laws are Catholic, and I truly respect where they're coming from and what they believe. But like, they love me. I'm their daughter-in-law, and they love me, and they treat me very, very well. But in their view, I'm not going to heaven with the rest of the family. And so, you know, we just kind of have to live in that space where, can I accept the love even knowing that that's how they feel? And conversely, can they continue to love me if that's how they feel? But sometimes you can't square the differences in a way that feels satisfying, but you can still live with them.
Yeah. And that's something that I've also come to accept, that, you know, my parents and I don't think we'll ever 100% be completely happy with our relationship.
Yeah.
And I think both of us will be a little bit disappointed. You know, my parents, they're going to pray for me until their very last breath. And I just need to accept that they are going to keep praying that I believe in something that I don't until their very last breath. And it's hard.
And we have this unfortunate trend now towards trying to simplify it a little too much. All this therapy speak out in the world that is trying to say things are black and white. Either do this or do that for your mental health. And I find that just really unfortunate because a lot of people are taking this advice and this feedback in without really taking the time to understand the nuance of it.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Michelle. Thank you for setting that up on the tee for me. But and this is to both of you. Do you think there's a lot of danger in some of this therapy speak we see on social media, or we just see in general, people who are not therapists but are giving therapeutic advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think Instagram, TikTok, they can all be. They've got its pros and cons. I feel like the word trauma is thrown around a lot. It's a very hot word. And, pro is it normalizes that, people are experiencing trauma every day. It doesn't have to be limited to war, rape, or violence. It could be, so many things and look so different for everybody. But on the other hand, using it so ubiquitously, I think then maybe takes away some of the power and takes away some of the meaning. And I think when older generations then hear this word, they're like, what are you talking about? And then it becomes this whole dismissive, minimizing kind of game. If you feel like you are having a hard time getting through your day because you're feeling all these trauma responses, instead of trying to self-diagnose and heal yourself with Instagram, see a therapist. They're trained in it. They will help you. They know how to validate you. They know how to hold space for you, and they know how to help you process and heal from this.
I couldn't say it any better. Amen.
Mic drop. I'm guilty of it, Sharon. I follow people on Instagram who are in that space, and I certainly sometimes I send Michelle something. I'm like, oh, this is cool, this quote or whatever. As a non-therapist, I guess I'm a little more susceptible to that kind of stuff. A lot of motivational speaking, a lot of self-help kind of speak, which maybe I need it more than most. I don't know.
You're also someone who's not necessarily in distress or having a lot of impairments and functioning in your life. So you're just open to it as oh, I'm curious, and that sounded inspirational and great, and then you scroll. But some people are really using it, like Sharon said, to self-diagnose or to make decisions in their life or come to conclusions about certain aspects of their distress based on something they hear or read.
Yeah. Well, so to kind of wrap this up, Sharon, and again, we really appreciate you coming on. This has been a fantastic conversation, so thank you so much. But any advice for people who are going through similar situations such as yours?
Yes, I definitely have some advice for that. Talk to somebody. Don't deal with this on your own. I am sure somebody who is going through something like this has felt very alone and has felt like they can't talk to anybody, has felt like they have to figure this out on their own. You are not alone. And there's so many people out there that are going through this. There's huge communities that you can find of adult children of estranged parents on Facebook, Reddit, lots of people out there who can relate and who can validate you, who can support you, who can be that community for you, maybe even that chosen family for you, so that you don't have to pretend that this isn't happening or live in shame, because it's not something that people are proudly talking about. I don't talk to my parents. Nobody really wants to brag about that. There's definitely people who are also, struggling with that very painful experience. And so I urge you to really just seek that community. And I found a lot of community in Codependence Anonymous when I first started this journey and it was just a room full of people who all were struggling with their very codependent families. And, some of them were going no contact, some of them were low contact, some of them are still figuring it out. And so there's just so many different avenues that you can take. And so I really think that, talking to somebody, finding a community, talking to a therapist, talking to somebody so that you don't have to continue being in this limbo.
Talking on a podcast, things like that.
Listening to a podcast. Yeah.
Yes, I could think of one or two I can recommend. Sharon, thank you so much. Sharon Kwon is a psychotherapist, writer, and founder of Body Aware Therapy. She's available for online therapy at bodyawaretherapy.com.
You can also find me on Instagram. I'm Talk with Sharon.
we will talk with you on Instagram. Great. Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for coming on. We really appreciate it. And I think this has been it's an invaluable conversation.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
I'm grateful that you shared your story with us and the insight. It's a double whammy to have both your personal story and kind of the therapeutic perspective that you can bring to it as well.
So during the taping, Michelle's cat jumped on her, and it was pretty funny.
She was livid. And then you were saying that your cat yells. Ours don't really talk too much unless they're like, whining for food or whatever. But
I love the fact that Sharon didn't even budge. She kept talking when your cat jumped on you. Like, no big deal.
And that was an aggressive jump because she had been trying to get me for like 10 minutes and I was ignoring her. So she was like, oh no, that's not allowed.
Yeah. Great conversation, Michelle. Kudos to you for finding Sharon's article, sending it to me. And I thought it was just a great topic. A lot of people struggle with their parents. And maybe it's not religion, but it's something, right? That we struggle with our parents where we feel like we're letting them down, or we're feeling like
we're not the person they want us to be in some capacity.
Yep. Or we're not feeling loved, as much as maybe we need or we should. And, these are things that she touched on.
And that's incredibly impactful to feel like the primary caregivers in your life, the people who are, supposed to be the most solid for you, when they aren't, that does a real number on your self-worth, on your identity. And then we see it play out, when you're a young adult or an adult trying to find relationships, we often see kind of the consequences of not having had that. Just like Sharon was saying, how she would, go for people who are unavailable. That makes a lot of sense when you know her background.
Yeah.
On a more global level, though, it's just, again, an article one of us read where it's the power of sharing your story and how it can impact other people and make us feel less alone. We love talking about that because it's such an important topic. And so many of us feeling lonely out there. I probably shouldn't say alone because that's a different feeling than lonely.
Sharon was dealing with issues where she did feel unsupported and alone, and
her willingness to share that story, and her vulnerabilities in that story too, because like she said, a lot of shame can come up when you are admitting that like you did cut off your family, and you may feel like people are going to judge you for that.
Have you had this conversation come up in your practice?
Oh yeah, and we've talked about this a lot. How more so in the past, 5 years, I would say, with just kind of the climate of the world, people are more divisive. In which case, you find it harder to navigate those differences. People are really, digging their heels in, or becoming more absolute, or having more black and white thinking. And so it's like when people are entrenched, you just feel kind of hopeless. Like how am I supposed to have a relationship with someone with whom I disagree on so many like really crucial levels?
Yeah.
And that can feel hopeless. So that's the other thing I liked about what Sharon said in the end about talk to someone. That was her big suggestion, because that can introduce the idea of options. When you're feeling hopeless, like this can't change, or my parents won't change, or my situation won't change, this idea that, okay, you actually may have some options available to you to make this better for yourself. I think sometimes when we're feeling that hopeless, we automatically assume there's nothing we can do about it, and there are no options.
You could go down a really dark rabbit hole if you let this fester, I would imagine, and you don't talk about it, and you don't deal with it. I mean, she fortunately was in a position where not only did she have the training, but she had the grit and the resilience. Had she not had that, this story may be a lot different. She certainly wouldn't have written an article,
If she had stayed in this path, just think of how physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausting it is to be inauthentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the people who are supposed to love you.
Right.
She did have the choice to kind of remain in the family and be what they wanted her to be. That wasn't who she is. And you think of, all the different kind of demographics of people that have to make that choice. To be accepted in this group, I have to be someone I'm not. and just how much that can wear on a person.
I wonder how many people go to church or participate in religious activities who don't necessarily buy in or believe it, but do it anyway just to fit in or just to like be part of their family, be accepted by their family, you know?
Yeah, those family obligations are very strong. And so you may feel like I have no choice in the matter. I have to do it this way, whether I believe it in or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because I find a lot of people phone in their kind of religious commitment. They go to church, sure, and they show their face, but how are they living the tenets or the teachings of that religion on a daily basis? Hopefully they're very aligned with what they're hearing in church, and sometimes they're not, and that's a tough one.
I always felt like church was a social occasion. I certainly participated growing up, and then up until college, I probably kind of walked away a little bit. I'd rather spend Sundays, sleeping in and watching football or something. But not that I became anti-religious. It wasn't as big of a priority to me, in my early 20s. But I think that, there are probably a lot of people who do go through the motions, right? They just show up, and it's a social occasion, and you get some cookies and some coffee and maybe a lot of friends there, which is certainly, I fully support that, by the way. It's an important to have social connections, especially as you get older.
The social benefits of that community are through the roof.
Yep.
If you really take advantage of them. And also just like the spiritual connection, the feelings like something bigger than yourself. I know when I first moved to LA, a friend of mine took me a couple times to this I think it was called Friday Night Live or something at a temple. And there was music and there was a service and food after, and it did feel like a party. And it also felt like, a bunch of people just with a common value all getting together. And so I got a lot out of it. I didn't continue going, but I certainly see the appeal.
It's community. It's connection. And we as humans, we thrive on that. We need that. Evolutionarily, we need to be part of a community to survive. So that said, it's important to have these connections, but what's not important is to be force-fed certain values and beliefs that you may not necessarily agree with.
And to go back to the core of Sharon's story is when you are in a situation where you are being asked to be someone you're not, how do you take care of yourself and what decisions you can make? Because we didn't really touch on the show, but obviously there's some who would say, well, that's very selfish to cut off your family just because of what you need. And that's certainly not, the collectivistic view that I tend to have in life. But again, there's nuance and there are moments, we've talked about this on other shows, where a line is drawn. And when that line is crossed, we wouldn't ask you to stay in a toxic relationship where you're being abused. We wouldn't ask you to, stay at a school or at a job where you're being abused. And yet because of blood, we're saying it's, you should stay in a family where it's not so simple to just say, well, it's one way or the other.
I think Sharon made a really, really brave choice.
And I appreciate that she shared all the different ways, all the different factors involved. It's not cut and dry. She let our listeners know that there are options and also that, there is the possibility for rupture and repair. One can make a thoughtful and informed decision about something like this and that it can be okay.
Well, great. Thanks, Michelle. This is, again, another good episode. And thanks to your cat for jumping in at the last minute and adding a little extra humor.
I would pay to see the video of that interaction.
Oh,
she doesn't normally jump straight at my face, so I was a little taken aback. I'm
putting that on social media. It is totally going up.
See, now I want my cats to be a certain way.
Exactly.
I'm imposing my values on her.
We owe it to ourselves and to our cats to actually
rupture and repair.
mold them to a way of thinking and behaving that actually, benefits us both, right?
Mm-hmm. I want to sign up for my cat's church, which is sleep 17 hours a day, get fed, get pet,
Oh, yeah.
If you're struggling with family, friends, or just life in general,
in a bad relationship and wondering what to do,
or you want a relationship and to set yourself up for success,
then we want to talk to you. So make your appointment on Unrelating.
To be a guest, ask a question, or recommend a topic, drop us an email at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube.